Many people believe that the lack of support from others is a sign to give up, as if the worth of their dreams depended on the approval of the crowd. But the truth is, no one is required to believe in you. As Carl Jung would remind us, most people only believe once they can see results, and results always come long after faith. If you wait for everyone to understand before you begin, you will never begin. Most people won't doubt you out of malice, but out of limitation. They see the world through their fears, not through your vision. That's why you must learn to walk alone when no one applauds you, to work in silence while others criticize, and to trust yourself even when no one else does. You don't need others to believe in you to move forward. You need to move forward so that one day, even your skeptics will have no choice but to believe. The most powerful faith isn't the faith others have in you, it's the one you hold when the world turns its back. Since childhood, we are trained to seek approval. We look for our parents' gaze to feel capable, for others' validation to feel worthy. But what begins as an innocent habit becomes a silent prison in adulthood. Many men never dare to make decisions because they fear disappointment. They stop dreaming bigger because they fear laughter, doubt, and judgment. Without realizing it, they let other people's opinions become the voice that directs their lives. But there is a truth that every strong person must accept. Not everyone will believe in you. Not everyone will understand your vision, share your purpose, or celebrate your path, and that's perfectly fine. It's not their duty to believe in what you see. It's yours. Faith in oneself is the foundation of all greatness. Without it, any criticism can destroy you. With it, not even 1,000 voices can stop you. When you start believing in yourself, the world will test you. Suddenly, you'll hear voices whisper, "That's impossible. It's too late. You're not that kind of person." Sometimes those voices come from strangers, but the most painful ones come from those closest to you. Family, friends, even partners. They look at you with disbelief because they cannot imagine something beyond their own experience. But their doubt is not a prophecy. It's a reflection of their own limits. What they couldn't achieve, they assume you can't either. And if you're not mentally strong, their words become invisible chains. You stop trying out of fear of disappointing them. But the truth is, you don't owe them proof. You don't need to justify your dreams to those who don't understand them. Your vision was given to you, not to them. Don't expect comprehension from those who have never dared to do something great. Believing in yourself isn't arrogance, it's clarity. It's knowing who you are, even when no one else sees it. There will be moments when you are alone, when no one congratulates you, no one motivates you, no one helps you. In those days, your only source of strength will be your conviction. If you don't cultivate it, you'll depend emotionally on others' recognition. But if you strengthen it, you'll become unstoppable. The people who change the world don't do it because everyone believed in them. They do it because they dared to believe when no one else did. Every great story began with someone called crazy, delusional, or unrealistic. And in time, those same doubters were forced to admit their mistake. That wasn't luck. It was faith in action. You don't need to convince anyone. You need to prove to yourself that you can. Distance yourself from those who constantly doubt you, not because they're enemies, but because disbelief is contagious. They drain your energy without meaning to, fill you with insecurity, and make you question yourself. Don't argue with them. It's not worth it. Time is the only argument that never fails. While they talk, you work. While they judge, you progress. And soon, your success will be too great to ignore. But don't do it for revenge. Do it out of respect for yourself, because no one should have the power to extinguish the faith that keeps you alive. Others' doubt only gains strength when you make it your own. Believe me, you don't need to convince the world. You only need to prove to yourself every day that you were made for something greater. The doubt of others is not an obstacle, it's a tool. If you learn to interpret it correctly, every criticism becomes fuel. But most people don't see it that way. They let others' disbelief seep into their minds, repeat it, amplify it, and eventually believe they can't. The problem was never that others didn't believe in you. The problem was that you started believing them. And that is the most dangerous thing that can happen to someone with great dreams, accepting another person's limited vision as truth. No one can see the future you imagine because it doesn't exist in their minds. They don't have your experience, your fire, your hunger, or your purpose. They can't see what you see. Allowing their opinions to shape your decisions is like asking a blind man to describe the color of the sky. They can't understand it, not because they're bad, but because their world is different from yours. When someone tells you that you can't, all they're revealing is their own limitation. They're speaking of what they wouldn't dare to do, not what you're capable of. Listen to their words, but don't take them as a sentence. They're projections, not prophecies. Each time someone doubts you, you have an opportunity, not to prove them wrong with words, but with results. More importantly, to prove to yourself that you don't need anyone's approval to move forward. Because while they criticize, you can keep building. While they waste time judging, you can keep growing. In the end, noise always fades when facts speak, and facts only come through action. The most common mistake is trying to convince others of your vision. You drain yourself explaining, defending, and justifying. But your purpose doesn't need permission. It needs movement. The time you spend defending yourself is time you could spend creating. You can't take everyone with you, nor should you. If someone doesn't believe in you, it's not your job to change their mind. Your job is to keep going until your results speak for you. Great transformations are not announced. They're demonstrated. Don't waste energy proving your worth. Invest it in growth. Those who don't believe in you today will respect you tomorrow, not because they changed their minds, but because your actions left them no choice. Surround yourself with those who believe in you, but more importantly, distance yourself from those who constantly plant seeds of doubt, because repeated doubt becomes a mental wound. It makes you walk in fear, think with insecurity, and decide with trembling hands. No one can truly flourish in an environment where every idea is questioned and every effort is criticized. Carl Jung said that the mind, when surrounded by fear and disbelief, begins to internalize those energies and mistake them for truth. Faith needs space to breathe, and if your surroundings suffocate you, you must leave, not out of pride, but for mental survival. Spend too much time listening to voices that don't believe in you, and your mind will start to mimic them. You begin to speak to yourself in the same tone. I can't. I'm not enough. It won't work. That's the real defeat. Not when the enemy stands outside, but when it finds a home within. That's why you must protect your mind with everything you have. Don't let just any word, opinion, or energy enter. Self-belief is fragile when it's being born. It needs silence to grow stronger. Stay away from those who destroy your dreams with their fears, disguised as advice. They'll say it's for your own good, but in truth, they act from fear. Fear of being left behind. There are people who don't want to see you fall, but they also don't want to see you fly. Because if you succeed in doing what they never dared to attempt, they'll have to face their own cowardice. Don't hate them, understand them, but don't stop. Move forward with respect, but without asking for permission, because your purpose isn't to convince them, it's to inspire them. And one day, when they see how far you've come, they'll realize that their doubt was part of the force that pushed you to surpass yourself. Faith in oneself isn't built with pretty words, but through evidence. Each time you do what you said you would do, even without support, you strengthen your inner trust. It's a silent yet powerful process, for the mind learns through repetition. If you train it to follow through, it will begin to believe. You don't need others to remind you that you can. You need to prove it through small, consistent actions every day. That consistency generates respect, first within yourself, then in others. And once that inner respect is born, you no longer depend on external validation. The problem with many men isn't a lack of talent, but emotional dependence on approval. They seek to be understood before they act, when in truth, understanding comes after success. No one believes in a dream that has not yet taken form. So while others doubt, you must build, not with arrogance, but with focus, not with resentment, but with determination. The path of growth is always paved with solitude. At first, it's inevitable, because as you change, your environment becomes uncomfortable. You begin to speak differently, think differently, act differently, and that threatens those who are not ready to evolve. Some will drift away without explanation. Others will try to convince you to return to your old self. But don't see that as rejection. See it as confirmation that you're moving forward. Growth unsettles, and those who don't believe in you will constantly remind you of it, not because they wish for your failure, but because your transformation forces them to confront their own stagnation. Every step you take mirrors what they have not dared to try. You can't expect support from those who feel threatened by your progress. They don't understand yet, and maybe they never will, but it's not your task to stop and explain. Your mission is not to convince, it's to advance. There will come an inevitable stage when you must walk alone. There will be no applause, no recognition, no understanding, only silence and work. And that's where true faith is tested. It's easy to believe when everyone backs you, but real faith reveals itself when the world goes silent. In that solitude, you are reborn. You learn to trust your own strength without witnesses, and your mind is cleansed of its need for approval. Each day that you persist, despite doubt, you are reprogramming your consciousness. You are telling your mind, I don't need others to believe in me, because I already do. And that affirmation, repeated through action, becomes a shield against any criticism. There comes a moment when other people's words no longer affect you, because you're too focused on fulfilling your purpose. When you reach that state, external doubt becomes motivation. You begin to thank the lack of faith because you realize it forced you to build your own. The "you can't" turns into energy. Criticism becomes focus. Loneliness turns into discipline. You discover that the absence of support was actually the training that made you strong. If everyone had believed in you from the beginning, you would never have developed the mental resilience required to sustain success. The lack of faith forced you to build character, to rise without help, to move without validation, to trust without guarantees. And that, precisely that, is what turns an ordinary man into an unstoppable one. Because while others depend on the group's encouragement, you've learned to light your own flame. And once that flame ignites, nothing and no one can extinguish it. There comes a stage in life when you finally understand that you don't need applause to keep walking. You realize that external validation is a luxury, not a necessity. Men who depend on the approval of others are like leaves in the wind. They move only when others blow in their favor. But men who trust themselves have their own engine. They don't need an external push because their inner conviction already sustains them. Yet, reaching that point requires a decision. You must walk away from those who constantly extinguish your fire. Those who always find a but for everything, who minimize your achievements, who make you feel guilty for growing. They don't always do it out of malice. They do it because your progress reminds them of their stagnation. Every time you rise, they feel they fall. So, they'll tell you you've changed, when what they really mean is, you no longer fit into my mediocrity. You cannot grow if you are surrounded by doubt. You cannot stay focused if you live defending yourself from the criticism of those who don't understand your path. Some people don't believe in you, yet still want to stay close just to have something to criticize. Don't give them that power. Constant disbelief is corrosive. It drains you. It makes you question yourself. Distance yourself, not out of pride, but out of peace. Faith needs space to expand, and the more time you spend trying to convince those who refuse to understand, the less energy you'll have left to build. Sometimes silence and distance are the best answers. When they see results, the conversation will change. But for that to happen, you must first have the courage to let go. Surround yourself with those who see you for what you can become, not just for what you were. There are people trapped in your old version who can't bear to witness your evolution. Don't be angry with them. Simply keep moving forward. Time will reveal who was truly with you and who was only there as long as you stayed the same. Faith in yourself cannot flourish in soil poisoned by negativity. You must protect your environment with the same discipline with which you care for your body. If you feed your mind with toxic energy, your thoughts will become sick. But if you feed it with confidence, action, and purpose, your mind will become unbreakable. Carl Jung taught that doubt is not conquered through argument, but through transformation. The way to silence disbelief is not to explain, but to evolve. Results destroy doubt more effectively than words ever could. And when those results arrive, what was once mockery becomes respect, and what was once silence becomes admiration. One of the greatest acts of self-love a man can perform is learning to protect his faith. Not religious faith, but faith in his ability, his purpose, his future. That faith is the invisible foundation of all greatness, yet it's the first thing most people surrender to others. They allow opinions to define their confidence, judgments to dictate their rhythm, and criticism to shape their decisions. But the one who depends on applause to move forward is doomed to stop when applause fades. That is why, as Jung would remind us, you must learn to build your faith without witnesses, to strengthen yourself when no one encourages you, and to keep walking when no one understands where you are going. Growth is not measured by how many walk beside you, but by how far you continue when others leave. Those who doubt you don't always speak their disbelief. Sometimes it comes through silence, indifference, or a glance that tries to shrink your vision to fit their fears. And if you are not aware, that energy can drain your spirit. Some will watch you with skepticism, unable to understand why you work so much, why you refuse to settle, why you keep dreaming when they already surrendered their will to life. They will tell you that life isn't supposed to be that way, that you should lower your expectations, that you must be realistic. But what they call realism is often resignation disguised as wisdom. They've confused what is probable with what is possible. And if you listen to them long enough, they will convince you that your goals are foolish. That is the trap of the mediocre mind. It hides fear beneath reason, disguises conformity as maturity, and calls lack of vision prudence. Do not fall into that illusion. Carl Jung taught that every man must separate himself from the collective shadow to find his own light. Great minds were never understood at first. Their ideas were mocked, their projects doubted, their intentions misread, yet they endured, not because the world believed in them, but because they believed in themselves. History honors the persistent, not the understood. When you detach from those who don't believe in you, something within you awakens. The external doubt stops echoing inside. You begin to hear yourself more clearly, to trust your intuition, to respect your own decisions. Your mind becomes quiet, focused, and strong. Suddenly, your energy multiplies because you no longer waste it explaining yourself. The time once spent defending your dreams is now used to build them. And each small victory becomes proof of your inner power. You realize you don't need the world's approval because the world always ends up following those who never quit. People who produce real results do not argue. They act. They don't seek to persuade. They inspire. They don't complain. They advance. They understand what most forget. Time reveals everything. What today seems madness, tomorrow will be called vision. But distancing yourself will not always be easy. Sometimes the unbelievers are those you love, parents, friends, partners. Letting go of those bonds requires courage, not because you want to hurt them, but because you understand that your evolution demands silence, distance, and emotional protection. You cannot progress if every step needs an explanation. You cannot build something great if every effort carries the weight of someone else's doubt. You don't need to cut ties with resentment. You just need to stop seeking their approval. Thank them for their role in your story, but write the rest alone. With time, some will understand and return with admiration. Others will remain behind, but you will have moved too far to look back with bitterness. And when that peace arrives, you will see that solitude was never punishment. It was purification. The lack of support wasn't an obstacle, but a blessing. Those who left were simply clearing the path for those who will believe in you later. When you remove doubt from your environment, you create room for faith. And when your faith becomes strong enough, the entire universe begins to align with you. Not by magic, but because you finally stopped asking permission to become who you were meant to be. The disbelief of others should not wound you. It should sharpen you. Every time someone says, "You can't," life hands you an opportunity to prove that you can. But to seize it, you need a different mindset. The mind of one who seeks growth, not approval. If every criticism makes you stop to defend yourself, you waste energy. If every doubt makes you hesitate, you're not advancing, you're reacting. Those who go far are not those who were always believed in, but those who learned to stand firm even when no one did. They built an unshakable faith, not because things went right, but because they learned to believe even in the midst of failure. When you understand that other people's opinions do not alter your destiny, you reclaim control over your life. You stop living to be understood and start living to be authentic. Most who don't believe in you act out of fear, not malice. Fear of the unknown, fear of trying, fear of seeing someone close achieve what they never dared to attempt. Their disbelief is not personal. They simply lack the capacity to imagine what you imagine. That is why you cannot waste energy trying to explain your vision to those still trapped by their past. You don't need to convince them. You need to evolve. While you build, their doubt stays behind. As you rise, their judgment loses meaning. The best answer to disbelief is consistent progress. It's not what you say, but what you create that proves your worth. And when that happens, many who once doubted you will become your greatest admirers, not because they changed, but because success cannot be denied. There is something profoundly liberating about no longer needing anyone's support. You become free, free from the fear of judgment, from the frustration of being misunderstood, from the urge to explain your calling. You move with a new calm, a focus that cannot be broken. It no longer matters who supports you, because you finally understand that real faith is an inner force, not an external vote. You grow quieter, more disciplined, more powerful. You speak less and act more. You trust your intuition more than the opinions of those who've never built anything. And with each achievement, your self-respect expands. You realize you never needed them to believe in you because you already became the person you always dreamed of being. But remember this: walking away from those who doubt you is not about despising them, but about valuing silence. You don't need to argue, to prove, or to show they were wrong. True success needs no witnesses. Your life will speak for you. Over time, what was once mockery becomes respect, and what was once indifference transforms into admiration. But that is not the point. The point is that while they doubted, you grew. And when you finally arrive where you always dreamed, you will look back and realize that their disbelief was your greatest training, because it taught you to move without applause, to work without recognition, and to believe without guarantees. And that kind of faith, the one born in solitude, is the most powerful a human being can ever possess. There comes a point on the path when you realize that the words of those who doubt you no longer wound your spirit. At first, they sting, naturally, because you expected support, understanding, someone to see in you what you already felt within. But one day, you stop expecting. You stop searching for eyes that approve your direction, and you begin to move forward purely out of conviction. It's at that precise moment that your power multiplies, because you are no longer driven by the fear of judgment, but by the desire to fulfill your inner purpose. That inner transformation is the dividing line between ordinary men and those who are awake. The first remain trapped, trying to convince the world. The second simply act. The difference is immense. When you stop trying to convince, everything changes. The noise fades, time stretches, your emotions stabilize. The mind no longer wastes energy justifying itself, it invests it in creating. And that simple decision, to keep going without permission, separates you from nearly everyone else. When a man learns to keep believing in himself, despite external doubt, he becomes an unstoppable force, for he understands that his value doesn't depend on what others perceive, but on what he does with what he has. Not everyone will understand your vision, but everyone will understand your results. Not everyone will believe your words, but no one can deny your transformation. It's easy to doubt a man who only speaks. It's impossible to doubt one who acts. That is the most powerful response to skepticism. Silent, disciplined, consistent action. Those who build great things never waste time debating disbelief. They use it as fuel. Each criticism becomes a reminder of what must still be proven to the self. Each rejection becomes a reason to move one step further. And so, without even trying, their success ends up disproving every doubt that once surrounded them. But to reach that place, you must first have the courage to let go of your addiction to approval. It is as dangerous as any other addiction. It weakens you, makes you dependent, and causes you to act out of fear. When a man no longer needs others to believe in him, he becomes truly free. He no longer asks for permission, recognition, or understanding. He acts because he knows his purpose is greater than any opinion. True freedom doesn't come when others accept you. It comes when you accept yourself. When you decide that what others think of you can never outweigh what you know you're capable of achieving, everything begins to change. Other people's doubt becomes background noise. Criticism turns into motivation. Silence becomes space to grow. And when you manage to remain steady in the middle of it all, something extraordinary happens. You start to attract different people. Those who once doubted fade away, and those who truly believe appear effortlessly. Because faith attracts faith, focus attracts focus, and strong energy attracts strong minds. What was once a struggle to prove yourself becomes a life of coherence and respect. You no longer need to explain your worth because it's visible, tangible, alive. And then you understand something profound. Those who didn't believe in you were part of the process, not the destination. They were there to test your strength, not to define your path. Because if you hadn't learned to keep going without support, you would never have learned to hold your purpose once everyone applauds. True faith isn't born from recognition. It's born from resistance. And now you know it. Believing in yourself was the greatest decision of your life. There comes a moment on the journey when confidence ceases to be an emotion and becomes a state of being. It no longer fluctuates with mood or external opinion. It becomes a deep, silent clarity that walks beside you everywhere. And that certainty is only built after you've distanced yourself from noise, after you've walked alone, after you've proven that you can move forward without approval. In that silence, your mind becomes stronger, sharper, more focused. You learn to trust your intuition, your discipline, your vision. You stop needing outer signs to continue because you've learned to hear the inner ones. That is the mental maturity few achieve, knowing that you don't need anyone to believe in you because your actions already proved it. In distancing yourself from those who never believed, you gain something invaluable. You realize that you don't need to change your environment to feel free. You need to change your mindset. The world may not always improve, but you can grow strong enough that it no longer affects you. When you become truly focused, negativity bounces off. Criticism no longer hurts. Doubt no longer distracts. Judgment no longer stops you. You learn to see disbelief for what it really is. Just another opinion, powerless over your reality. And that gives you an enormous advantage because while others waste energy defending their worth, you are busy multiplying it. Every day you persist, every step you take, Every obstacle you overcome, without applause, becomes a silent declaration of strength. You no longer speak of what you will do, you simply do it. And that coherence is the purest form of self-respect. Over time, you look back and realize that those who doubted were necessary. If everyone had believed in you from the beginning, you might never have developed the strength you now possess. The absence of faith forced you to become your own foundation. It taught you not to depend, not to surrender, to remain calm in the storm. And although it hurt at the time, it was the greatest lesson of your life. Because that disbelief taught you to build faith from evidence, not promises. You learned to stand without applause, to trust without proof, to move without company. The loneliness that once frightened you became discipline, and discipline became freedom. The freedom to be yourself, to believe in yourself unconditionally, to move forward without permission. When you reach that point, faith stops being something you practice and becomes who you are. You no longer doubt yourself because you know yourself. You know what you can do. You know your worth. And you know that nothing external can alter your direction. That inner certainty transforms everything you touch. Your environment changes, your results change, even your relationships change, because you no longer accept less than what you deserve, nor surround yourself with those who don't elevate your purpose. You are selective, not out of ego, but out of respect. You know your energy is sacred, your time is limited, and your purpose deserves protection. You've learned to say no without guilt, to walk away without resentment, and to move forward quietly. And when the world finally sees what you've built, it will understand that your faith was never arrogance, it was vision. Because believing in yourself, even when no one else does, isn't pride, it's wisdom. When you learn to distance yourself from those who doubt you, and something inside begins to heal, you stop living with the constant tension of having to prove, to explain, to justify every step you take. You start breathing with calm, acting with focus, and thinking with clarity. The lack of faith from others no longer hurts, because you realize it was never your duty to carry their disbelief. You understand that the opinions of others have no power unless you hand it to them, and in that moment, you reclaim your mental freedom. That freedom allows you to create without fear, to advance without hesitation, and to decide without guilt. While others are still debating whether it's worth it, you're already building something that will prove it always was. The greatest individuals in history shared one trait. At some point, they walked alone. Not out of pride, but because no one else could see what they saw. Walking away from those who don't believe doesn't isolate you. It expands you. It gives you space to think, to plan, to connect with your true self. Because when the noise fades, your inner voice grows louder. That voice, once buried under layers of external doubt, begins to strengthen. It's the voice that says you can, even when you fail. The voice that reminds you to keep going, even when no one else would. That voice is your true ally, your invisible partner, your faith in motion. But it only appears when you stop listening to those who don't believe. If you live trying to please them, you'll never hear it. That's why so many people never discover their power. Their minds are filled with voices louder than their own. Faith cannot flourish amid noise. It needs silence. It needs conviction. It needs space. As you move forward, you'll realize that the words of doubters no longer define you. They drive you. Every time someone says, "You won't make it," they give you another reason to focus. Every time someone mocks your dreams, they give you another reason to stay disciplined. In time, you'll even feel gratitude for their words, because without them, you might never have felt such hunger to prove to yourself that you could. Their disbelief becomes the weight you use to strengthen your mind. And step by step, without revenge, without resentment, without explanations, you build a life so solid that success becomes inevitable. Not because the world believes, but because you no longer need it to. The greatest triumph is not that the world finally believes in you, but that you never stopped believing in yourself. While others waited for proof, you were creating results. While they doubted, you kept growing. While they talked, you kept moving. In the end, words fade, but actions remain. Your story will speak louder than any criticism. And when you look back, you won't feel resentment, but gratitude. Because every doubt, every judgment, every voice that told you you can't became the fire that made you stronger, wiser, and freer. You'll understand that faith cannot be inherited or taught. It's built in silence, strengthened through action, and sanctified by results. Those who truly believe in themselves don't need followers. They lead. When you finally grasp the power of walking away from those who doubt you, you'll see you've lost nothing. You've gained everything. You gained clarity because you no longer depend on external noise to decide. You gained strength because you learned to move without support. You gained freedom because you stopped waiting for understanding. And above all, you gained faith, that unshakable confidence, built through action, not words. You'll discover that you don't need the world to believe in you to succeed. You need to believe in yourself to transform the world. That's the difference between those who make history and those who merely watch it. The first move with conviction, the second with the need for approval. And if there's one thing to remember, it's that the great ones were never understood at first. They were called crazy, arrogant, dreamers, until one day their results spoke so loudly that silence turned into respect. It always happens that way. Doubt is temporary, but faith leaves a legacy. The day you stop depending on others' approval will be the day everything begins to align. Not because the world changes, but because you do. You'll no longer see criticism as attack, but as proof that you're advancing. You'll no longer fear solitude, but feel gratitude for the space that allows you to grow. The lack of faith from others will no longer hurt, because you'll realize their disbelief was the soil where your resilience grew. And then your focus will be unwavering, your purpose crystal clear, your discipline unbreakable, until your results become undeniable. Those who once doubted will look at you in awe, but you won't need their recognition, because your reward will be internal, the peace of having believed when no one else did. That peace is the prize few ever know, because few dare to bet on themselves. And one day, without even noticing, your mere presence will inspire others. You won't talk about faith. You'll embody it. You won't need to say, "Believe in yourself," because your life will show it. You'll be the living example that a person doesn't need the world's validation to create something extraordinary. You'll understand that the doubters were never enemies, but teachers who forced you to rely solely on your conviction. And you'll look back without resentment, because every word of doubt was a spark that ignited your determination. The faith you forged in the dark will shine brighter than any applause. That is the paradox of greatness. Those who questioned you the most were the ones who helped you awaken. So never fear walking alone. Never fear being misunderstood. Never fear believing in yourself when no one else does, for that is the path of those who leave their mark. The ones who don't wait for permission, who don't seek approval, who don't stop when no one follows. You don't need others to believe in you. You only need to believe with such power that sooner or later the world has no choice but to follow. And when that happens, it won't be a miracle. It will be justice, because you were always enough. This message is not mere motivation. It's a reminder that true evolution begins the moment you decide to become responsible for your own story. Every second you invest in yourself is a step toward freedom, clarity, and inner fulfillment. If you feel ready for real change, subscribe to this channel, activate the notification bell, and share this video with someone who needs to awaken their inner power. Your growth is the greatest gift you can ever give yourself. As Carl Jung once said, the privilege of a lifetime is to become who you truly are. Let us imagine, just for a moment, that dogs, the creatures we so often take for granted in our daily lives, are far more than simple companions. Their presence at our side is not random, nor is it a mere coincidence of evolution or biology. It is perhaps part of a greater design, one that transcends the limits of the human mind and penetrates the very depths of our being. These beings, often dismissed as mere pets, may in fact be emissaries of light, guardians of a kind of wisdom we've long forgotten, and channels of an energy far older and more sacred than we can begin to comprehend. Dogs, with their unwavering loyalty and boundless affection, are in truth spiritual masters in disguise. They do not seek recognition, nor do they ask for anything in return beyond our presence. Yet what they offer is profound. They offer a kind of love that demands nothing, judges nothing, and forgives everything. Many spiritual teachings and ancient beliefs suggest that dogs are not merely descendants of wolves, as science tells us, but are incarnations of a celestial force that defies our limited notions of origin and purpose. While it's true that they share a genetic lineage with wild ancestors, it is equally necessary to ask, what lies beyond the physical? What unseen purpose animates their gentle hearts? Modern science, ancient mysticism, and intuitive experience converge on a fascinating idea that dogs may originate not just from the earth, but from the stars, that their souls are born from a dimension beyond time and space, sent here not simply to exist, but to assist us, to guide, to heal, and to teach. Their mission is not one of intellect or reason, but one of pure vibration, one of love so unconditional that it humbles the human heart and reminds us of our own capacity for greatness. They arrive in our lives like sentinels of compassion, aligning themselves with our energy fields and offering solace in moments we didn't even realize we needed. Within the core of our being lies a truth so essential that it shakes the very foundation of our understanding. True evolution is not a product of our minds, nor is it measured by intellectual achievements or social advancements. Real evolution begins in the soul and flourishes in the realm of spirit. In this sacred process, dogs walk beside us as equals, no, as guides who illuminate the way forward with their silent wisdom and enduring love. From a materialistic standpoint, dogs might appear less evolved than humans. They do not build cities, they do not write books, and they do not wage wars or dream of conquering the stars. But what does this truly say about evolution? If evolution is defined by the capacity to love, to give without expectation, and to heal without condition, then perhaps it is we who have much to learn from them. For time and time again, our dogs have been our silent saviors, not in a metaphorical sense, but in both the physical and metaphysical realms. Their bond with us is more than friendship. It is an energetic alliance forged in dimensions unseen. In our darkest hours, when grief presses down like a storm, when anxiety poisons our peace, when illness threatens to unravel us, our dogs remain. They do not speak, but their presence speaks volumes. Their silent companionship has been known to absorb the negative vibrations that plague us, acting as living conduits of transmutation. Scientific studies on the therapeutic impact of pets have revealed something astonishing. Dogs, without ever knowing it cognitively, take on the emotional and even physical burdens of their human companions. They become mirrors for our pain, carriers of our sorrows. This incredible act of energetic sacrifice, this willingness to somatize our traumas and illnesses, is the ultimate embodiment of love. It is a kind of love that lies beyond human comprehension, a love that is neither romantic nor parental, but something more ancient and infinite. There are countless stories of dogs falling ill shortly after their owners do, as if their souls are so tightly bound to ours that suffering must be shared, even if it means their own decline. And there are those who claim that dogs have died shortly after the death of their human, as if their purpose in this plane had been fulfilled and their mission complete. This is not mere sentimentality, it is a sacred mystery. But as with all sacred things, not every human honors this divine connection. In the shadows of history, and even in present times, there have been those who have exploited these noble beings, channeling their energies for selfish or even dark intentions. Ritualistic abuse, energetic manipulation, yes, such things exist. And they are a betrayal of the sacred trust dogs place in us. It is our responsibility, therefore, to protect them just as they protect us. They are not tools to be used. They are not objects of domination. They are beings of light, and their purpose is rooted in love, not control. Many of us have, at some point, felt a mysterious bond with a dog, one that defies explanation, one that feels destined, as if written into the very fabric of our existence. Perhaps you, too, have felt that your dog healed you, saved you from something, or appeared at a time when you needed them most. If so, then your story is part of a larger truth that binds us all. Dogs are not just animals. They are vibrational entities whose very presence helps elevate our own frequencies. They are here to help awaken us, to lift our spirits, and to teach us what no human teacher ever could: how to love purely, freely, and infinitely. The greatest teacher is not the one who speaks with wisdom, but the one who loves without condition. And in this, dogs are masters beyond compare. Their most vital energetic centers are found in their solar plexus and heart. These centers receive and transmit vibrations from their surroundings, attuning themselves to the emotional climates of those they care about. This is why dogs often sense danger before we do. This is why they come to us when we cry, when we suffer, when we tremble under the weight of invisible burdens. They do not judge us. They simply feel us. Their connection to us runs so deep that it often seems orchestrated by something greater than chance. Like trees that grow in silence, the mission of dogs unfolds quietly, invisibly, yet powerfully. They do not announce themselves as healers. They do not come with grand declarations. And yet when they arrive in our lives, it is always at the right time, like a cosmic appointment fulfilled. As if Somewhere in the vast architecture of the universe, a thread was pulled, and they were sent to us exactly when we needed them, even if we didn't yet know it ourselves. In their silent devotion, in their radiant presence, dogs teach us life's most sacred lessons: the purity of love, the beauty of selflessness, and the profound power of sacrifice. And so, luminous soul, as you contemplate this truth, ask yourself, how many humans truly love the way a dog does? With no conditions, with no expectations, simply, fully, and eternally. The answer, as you may already feel, reveals something both humbling and divine. True love is, and always has been, a mystery. And in the eyes of a dog, we are given a glimpse of that mystery, a light that calls us to remember who we are and who we are capable of becoming. A mystery unfolds before us, one that our canine companions reveal not through words, but through their eyes, their gestures, and their joyful barks that seem to speak directly to our souls. With each look, each tail wag, each soft nudge of their nose, they silently offer us something profound, a lesson in love, in loyalty, in presence. But the question remains, are we, as human beings, truly ready to learn from them? This, perhaps, is what true evolution looks like. Not technological advancement, not the conquest of planets, but the humble recognition of wisdom in forms we often overlook. Dear vibrant beings, the connection between humans and dogs is shrouded in a depth far beyond what we usually perceive. It's not merely about companionship or domestication. It is something sacred, something ancient. We often believe it is we who choose the dog. We stroll through shelters, browse online listings, or stumble upon a stray in the street and think the choice was ours. But in reality, the dog chooses us. It is in their honest gaze, that soulful, unwavering look, where something shifts within us. In that moment, something beyond logic takes over. Our hearts remember, our souls respond. This moment of apparent choice reveals a truth that defies our understanding. These creatures, these beings of fur and boundless spirit, select us, and they do so with perfect timing, appearing when we need them the most. When life feels too heavy, when we've lost our way, they arrive, not by accident, but as part of a larger orchestration that we rarely recognize. Their presence is not coincidental, it is synchronistic, and in that precise instant, an eternal bond is formed, a bond that transcends physical proximity. It is emotional, yes, but more than that, it is energetic. This connection is not a product of chance, but of cosmic alignment. It is a meeting orchestrated by forces we do not yet comprehend. Dogs come into our lives to teach us the most powerful form of love, unconditional love, a love that expects nothing, that judges nothing, that holds no grudges, a love that forgives instantly, that remains playful and joyful even in the face of human imperfection. They do not know vengeance. They do not entertain resentment. Their nature is free from the emotional chains we humans often carry for a lifetime. At their core, dogs embody the truest essence of love, pure, unfiltered, and ever-giving. And yet when we betray that love, when we abandon them or treat them with cruelty, something changes. The primal side of their being emerges, the side that shares blood with the wolf. They may grow distant, wary, even aggressive. That beautiful frequency they once radiated begins to fade. But here's the miracle. Even after being hurt, even after being broken, if we offer them love once more, if we show care, gentleness, and presence, they return, they forgive, they love again. No other creature on earth embodies this capacity for emotional resurrection quite like a dog. They remind us of our own potential to return to love, to rise again after being broken. They hold no resentment. They don't carry trauma the way we do. They simply move forward, offering affection as if the pain never existed. Dogs, with their extraordinary sensitivity, are not just companions in the physical world. They are energetic beings, deeply attuned to the vibrational field around them. They are receivers and transformers of energy. They absorb the emotional tones of their environment, not just the obvious ones like anger or joy, but subtle frequencies that ripple beneath the surface. When a human carries destructive emotions, rage, grief, despair, the dog steps in, silently, willingly. They begin the invisible work of transmutation, absorbing the energy and altering its frequency before it can do harm to their beloved human. This process is not limited to one person. Dogs extend this protection to the entire household. Their energetic service touches everyone within their pack, the family. That is why caring for them is so critical. They need clean water, nutritious food, rest, and affection. These aren't just acts of kindness. They are essential elements that allow them to keep purifying and healing the energy they encounter. Some dogs benefit greatly from energy healing practices like Reiki, which help them discharge the burdens they carry out of love. And their service does not end in the waking world. Just like humans, dogs access higher dimensions. When we sleep, our frequency shifts. We enter altered states of consciousness. In those sacred hours of rest, our dogs often do the same. They too may journey, detach, and travel through the unseen. And there, in the quiet expanse of the astral realm, they become guardians, protectors of our energy field. They watch over us, sometimes taking forms our subconscious can recognize, offering comfort and protection as we navigate the subtle realms of spirit. There are accounts, real, documented experiences of dogs refusing to enter certain rooms, homes, or spaces. Why? Because the energy there is too dense, too heavy, too toxic. They sense what we cannot, and by staying away, they avoid absorbing those harmful vibrations into their own being. They are not only protecting themselves, they are protecting us. Their refusal is an act of love. Every day, dogs demonstrate to us the possibility of living in higher states of being. They remind us what it means to love without judgment, to remain present, to forgive quickly, and to serve selflessly. And in return, they ask for so little: a kind word, a warm place to rest, a bit of affection, and above all, our recognition, not just as pets, but as spiritual companions, energetic healers, and timeless friends who walk beside us, not behind. To live alongside a dog is to walk with a being that came into this world with a purpose often hidden, but always sacred. Perhaps we didn't rescue them after all. Perhaps they rescued us. There are those who believe that in certain cases, dogs have actually lost their lives for one profound reason: their spiritual role as protectors and purifiers of energy. In films like The Conjuring, we see examples of how dogs, when exposed to heavy and negative energies, can physically suffer due to their unique ability to absorb and neutralize these dark forces. They don't just protect their homes physically, they shield their human companions energetically, sometimes at the cost of their own well-being. Dogs communicate with us in subtle yet powerful ways. One of these is through their panting. While many assume a dog pants only when it's tired or hot, there's a deeper explanation from an energetic standpoint. Panting functions as a form of energetic perspiration, Much like how humans sweat to release toxins, dogs pant to release energetic burdens. They don't just expel heat, they release the emotional and energetic loads that they absorb from their environment and from us, their human companions. Even the constant wagging of a dog's tail plays a critical role in the spiritual connection they maintain with us. That rhythmic motion is not random. It stimulates and harmonizes the root and sacral chakras in humans, which are the foundational centers of our vital energy. It's as if, through their joyful gestures, dogs are actively raising our vibrational frequency, gently activating the parts of us that connect to physical stability, emotional security, and the pleasure of simply being alive. When we reflect on the fact that dogs live on average about 1/8 of a human lifespan, it may seem unfair. But this shorter lifespan is not a limitation. It is a sign of their spiritual mission. They come into our lives to accompany us through powerful cycles of transformation. Just as the human body regenerates its cells every 7 to 10 years, dogs are here to guide us through those periods of renewal, helping us elevate our emotions, heal our inner wounds, and learn the deepest lessons of unconditional love. They act as silent healers who transmute our pain and carry our emotional burdens, helping to rewrite the information stored in our very cells. Their howl, haunting and ancient, carries more than a cry into the night. It is an energetic warning, an alert that negative vibrations are nearby. Some dogs even sense events before they occur, as if their spirits are attuned not just to the present moment, but to the vibrations of the future, or the unfolding of events far away, beyond space and time. Dear souls, the presence of a dog in our lives is not a coincidence. It is a cosmic blessing, a sacred encounter. Dogs are not just pets. They are guardians, sentinels of energy, spiritual guides who bring pure and unconditional love into our lives. Their eyes, deep and knowing, recognize our soul before we even fully recognize theirs. It is not we who choose them. They choose us. They find us when we most need them, silently stepping into our lives to fulfill a mission far greater than our human minds can understand. Beloved beings of light, there is a profound mystery surrounding our canine companions, a mystery that defies explanation and reaches into realms unseen. It's not unusual to hear of dogs howling incessantly before earthquakes or natural disasters. They become restless, agitated, not out of fear, but because they sense the energetic shifts taking place beneath the surface of the earth. These are not mere instincts. These are connections to the vibrational fields that govern our universe. In moments like these, we begin to realize that dogs, like humans, are multidimensional beings. Scientists studying energy fields have long stated that humans operate beyond just the physical plane. But dogs, too, move through dimensions. They feel what cannot be seen, perceive what cannot be heard, and sense what has not yet happened. They are, in many ways, guardians of the invisible, protectors of what is to come. From an energetic point of view, many human practices seem confusing, even harmful. Take, for example, the widespread tradition of cutting a dog's ears or tail for aesthetic reasons. What may appear superficial on the surface, in the energetic realm, becomes an act of deep disruption. A dog's ears act like antennas. They are not just for hearing, but for sensing the energies of the cosmos. Within them lies the crown chakra, the point that connects them to universal energy, allowing them to feel the subtlest vibrations around them. Their tails, too, are more than expressive limbs. They are vital, energetic conduits. The tail channels life force. It helps the dog stay in harmony with emotional frequencies in its environment. To remove or alter this part of them is to disrupt their natural spiritual alignment, to sever a piece of their energy field. It is a practice that no longer belongs in an awakened world. To adopt a dog is an act of spiritual connection. It is an offering of love, not only to another being, but to yourself. When you adopt, you are not just bringing an animal into your home. You are opening your heart to a soul that is destined to walk beside you, to help you heal, grow, and love more deeply. Adoption is empathy in action. It is a recognition of the divine spark in another living being. In contrast, purchasing a dog risks turning a sacred soul into a commodity. When we assign a price to a being whose love cannot be measured, we reduce their essence to something transactional. Their true worth lies not in the money exchanged, but in the love they bring, the lessons they teach, the healing they offer. If dogs were sold for millions of dollars, perhaps then we would pause to reflect on the value of what they truly are, beings of light, loyalty, and ancient wisdom. Yes, there are responsible breeders who care deeply for their dogs, but they are the exception rather than the rule. The majority of dogs in need are not found in expensive catalogs. They are waiting in shelters, on streets, in corners of our cities and towns, carrying wounds that we cannot see. Many stray dogs appear to be heavy with dark energy, and some believe that this is the reason they are rejected. But these dogs are not cursed. They are carrying what others could not handle. They are vessels of unwanted energy, patiently waiting for someone to see beyond the surface and offer them love. When you open your heart to such a dog and give it a better life, you create a ripple of healing that spreads far beyond that moment. Like a stone dropped into a still pond, the love you show radiates outward, affecting everything and everyone around it. That act of love resonates. It lifts the frequency of your home, your family, your own energy field. The transformation is real, not only for the dog, but for you and for the world you inhabit. When a dog dies, its presence doesn't disappear. In the more subtle dimensions, the dog continues to accompany its human companion for a time before moving on. Their loyalty, their love, extends beyond the veil of death. They continue to protect, to watch over, to guide, not in form, but in energy. Many Reiki healers and spiritual practitioners have reported sensing the presence of dogs during energy work, still guarding their loved ones even from the spirit realm. If we look back in history, we find that dogs have always held a sacred place in human consciousness. In ancient Egypt, they were revered not only for their skills as guardians and hunters, but also for their deep spiritual connection. They were seen as intermediaries between the earthly world and the divine, beings who walked both paths at once. Today, though centuries have passed, that truth remains. Our dogs are not here just to fetch balls or go on walks. They are divine messengers, sacred companions, energetic protectors. They are here to help us remember who we truly are, beings of love, capable of connection beyond words, beyond logic, beyond this world. They were deeply valued and respected. In the depictions of that ancient time, dogs were never merely background figures. They were always by the side of their human companions, both in the physical realm and in the world of the spiritual. These animals were not only seen as loyal friends, but were also closely linked to one of the most powerful and mysterious figures in Egyptian mythology, Anubis. This revered deity, guardian of the dead and protector of funerary rites, was often portrayed with the head of a jackal or a dog, reinforcing the sacred bond between canines and the divine. Anubis held an essential role in the Egyptian belief system. He wasn't just a symbol of death. He was the guide who helped souls transition from the earthly plane to the afterlife. His task was to ensure safe passage, to weigh the heart of the deceased, and to guard the tombs from those who might seek to disturb the peace of the eternal rest. And because dogs were associated with him, they were seen as beings with a unique spiritual mission. They weren't merely animals, they were considered protectors of unseen dimensions, sentinels of spiritual gateways that connected our human experience with realms beyond comprehension. Today, beloved vibrant souls, we can still feel the echoes of that ancient reverence. The dog remains, just as it was in the past, a creature of profound spiritual intelligence. There is something about their gaze, their silent presence, their unwavering loyalty that continues to remind us of truths too deep to be expressed in words. A dog's love is pure. It isn't earned by status or wealth. It isn't transactional. It simply is. And in that purity, there is a reflection of the divine. They teach us, through their everyday actions, that real value does not lie in what we can own or measure. It lies in the invisible threads that bind us to each other, in the emotions we share, in the healing power of connection, and in the silent presence that tells us we are never alone. Through their loyalty and their silent wisdom, dogs show us that love is not limited by boundaries or conditions. It is a force that transcends time, space, and even death. They are more than companions. They are our teachers, our protectors, our constant mirrors of unconditional love. They walk alongside us through this journey called life, quietly guiding us with every step, reminding us to stay present, to remain open, to feel more deeply. They are reminders that even when we feel lost, we are still surrounded by love in its most authentic form. Today, together, we've uncovered a powerful and illuminating truth about these remarkable beings. Dogs, creatures often dismissed as mere pets or simple animals, are, in truth, far more than our rational minds can fully grasp. They are not confined to the limitations of the physical world. Their purpose is far greater than what we can understand through logic alone. Their mission on this earth goes far beyond companionship. These loving beings are emissaries of a universal energy. They come to us with a higher purpose, to teach us the art of love, the meaning of loyalty, and the path to emotional healing. In their quiet presence, they offer a sanctuary, a safe space for our souls to rest and our hearts to heal. They are multi-dimensional messengers who touch us in places no human ever could. They heal wounds we thought were permanent. They hold space for us to unravel, and in doing so, they remind us how to become whole again. They are our guides in more ways than we realize. Spiritual protectors that don't wear armor, but offer something far more powerful: unconditional presence. In their eyes, we see acceptance. In their touch, we feel warmth. In their company, we find home. And through their companionship, we learn that true growth, true transformation, does not happen in the mind alone, but in the soul, in the deepest parts of our being that are often hidden even from ourselves. So, beautiful, vibrant soul, the next time you look into the eyes of your dog, don't just see a physical being by your side. See the sacred essence within. Recognize their spiritual mission. Acknowledge the invisible, yet powerful connection you share. These beings, with their unshakable love and quiet wisdom, have entered your life for a reason. They are here now, at this exact moment in your journey because your soul called for a guide, and they responded. Let them remind you that you are loved beyond measure, that even in your hardest moments, you are not alone. Let them inspire you to love more, to forgive more, to heal, and to embrace the sacredness of every moment. Their presence is a divine invitation, one that calls you to awaken to your truest self, to remember the light within you, and to walk through this life with more grace and compassion. And now, with this deeper understanding, I invite you to continue this journey of spiritual discovery. Keep learning, keep expanding. Let these truths settle into your heart. Let them transform your perspective. There is so much more to see, so much more to understand, so many unseen energies and connections waiting to be revealed. This is only the beginning. If your soul feels called, continue watching, continue exploring, continue walking beside me on this path. Together, we will uncover even more mysteries that bind us to the universe, to our companions, and to the divine. You are not alone in your search for meaning, for light, for love. We are in this together. Keep going and allow love and wisdom to shape your life in ways you never imagined. You didn't see it coming, but you felt it. Suddenly, your thoughts no longer shouted inside your mind. The emotions that once dragged you from one extreme to another seemed to lose their grip. What once hurt simply stopped mattering. You no longer feel the need to explain what you feel, nor the pressure to fit in where you don't resonate. Something within you shifted, and even though the world continues to appear the same, you are no longer the same. And then the question arises, how can you tell if what you are experiencing is just a passing emotional stage or a true spiritual transformation? Carl Jung once said that the unlived life is a disease from which one can die. And when you finally choose to live from your soul, everything changes. It is as if you are suddenly looking at reality through a hidden window, a secret opening that reveals dimensions invisible to the ordinary eye. This is not imagination. This is not fantasy. It is not a story your mind is inventing. That window exists. It opens into a dimension you cannot touch, yet you can feel it with overwhelming certainty. Your soul no longer belongs fully to the third dimension, and that is why everything around you feels different. There are clear signs that you have crossed a threshold, and once you recognize them, there is no going back. The first is the deep urgency to become who you truly are. You begin to feel tired, not in the physical sense, but tired of the roles, the masks, the endless obligation to fit into molds that were never yours. You can no longer pretend to be interested in conversations that drain you, in relationships that no longer nourish you, in environments that suffocate your essence. Something inside of you rebels against the superficial. Appearances exhaust you. Half-truths disturb you. There is an inner force pushing you to stop hiding, to show yourself as you are, to live in your authenticity, even if it costs you affection, recognition, or security. It is not rebellion. It is not defiance. It is evolution. Because once you step into the fifth dimension, you cannot continue betraying yourself. The energy becomes so subtle, so refined, that any incoherence feels like a wound. And so, without fully understanding why, you begin to choose silence over noise, truth over comfort, solitude over false company, coherence over appearances. Pretending hurts more than losing, and that is one of the clearest signs that your vibration has shifted to another plane. The fifth dimension begins precisely when you stop being who others expect you to be and finally become who you have always been. You start to notice that you no longer identify with the things that once defined your life. It is not that you despise your past, it simply no longer represents you. You cannot force yourself to act, think, or speak as you did before. Words flow differently. Silences grow heavier. Decisions that once seemed impossible now feel inevitable, like the only path forward. And this is not an escape, it is a return. A return to what you have always been, but had forgotten beneath layers of duty, expectation, and fear. You find yourself saying no without guilt, protecting your energy without explanations, breaking ties without drama, because you finally understand that you are not abandoning people. You are leaving behind old versions of yourself that cannot accompany you any longer. There is a purity guiding your steps now, a strange clarity that doesn't come from logic, but from somewhere much deeper. It feels like a gentle certainty, as if your soul whispers, "Enough postponing, enough disguises, enough waiting." There is no noise in that voice, no urgency, just a quiet firmness born from the heart, telling you that you can no longer return to what you were. And in that moment, you realize the most profound truth of all. It is not the world that has changed, it is you. Your vibration, your frequency, your consciousness have shifted. And once that awakening happens, once your soul crosses that invisible threshold, the process becomes irreversible. You are no longer asleep inside the dream. You are awake within it, and nothing will ever be the same again. Second sign, increased sensitivity to energies. As your consciousness expands, you begin to notice an internal shift, a heightened sensitivity to the energies around you. This isn't just about what you perceive with your physical senses, but rather an inner ability to sense vibrations, emotions, and atmospheres that were previously unnoticed. Suddenly, places that once seemed insignificant now deeply affect you. You can sense whether a space has a heavy or light energy, whether a person has good intentions or radiates a dense, draining energy. This perception is subtle, but no less real, and can lead to moments of discomfort, or conversely, moments of profound connection. This sensitivity isn't limited to your environment. It also extends to your body and mind. You feel emotions, both your own and those of others, more intensely, prompting you to cherish your energy as an invaluable treasure. You seek purer, more harmonious environments because you no longer tolerate toxicity or emotional exhaustion. This increased energy sensitivity is a clear sign that you are aligning with the fifth dimension, where connection to universal energy becomes a constant and profound experience. This awakening of energy awareness doesn't happen overnight. It is a gradual and powerful process that transforms your relationship with the world and with yourself. You are no longer a mere passive observer of reality. You now become a receiver and channel of subtle energies that were previously hidden. You may notice that certain sounds, lights, or even smells that didn't affect you before now evoke strong reactions. You might feel more drained after being in crowded places, or conversely, find peace in nature, as if the air purifies your soul. This sensitivity also manifests in your personal relationships. You begin to perceive the true emotions behind words, sensing what others don't express. This can be both a gift and a challenge. On one hand, it deeply connects you with humanity and its complexities. On the other hand, it makes you more vulnerable to absorbing negative energies if you don't learn to protect yourself. Therefore, those who experience this phase develop practices to protect their energy field, such as meditation, cleansing rituals using natural elements, protective visualizations, or simply learning to be more mindful about where and with whom they choose to spend their time. Furthermore, this heightened sensitivity drives you to seek authenticity. You no longer accept facades or illusions. You yearn for relationships and experiences that resonate with genuine and sincere energy. This may lead you to distance yourself from people or places that, although familiar, no longer resonate with your new vibration. The most beautiful aspect is that this deeper connection with energy allows you to better understand the universe and your place within it. You begin to understand that nothing is separate, that every being, every element of nature, and every circumstance is part of a vast energetic web of which you are also a part. This shift may feel unsettling, but it is also liberating. It invites you to live with greater presence, to listen more attentively, and to respond from a place of love and awareness rather than fear or habit. The energetic sensitivity you develop is, in essence, a gift that prepares you to live fully in the fifth dimension, where harmony and connection are the foundation of all experience. Third sign, authentic detachment from the ego and its chains. When you begin to vibrate at the frequency of the fifth dimension, something within you slowly loosens from the old ties of the ego. It is not a forced detachment or a denial of your identity, but a genuine liberation from the superficial concerns that once ruled your mind and emotions. You no longer feel the urgent need to prove yourself to anyone, nor do you seek external recognition to validate who you are. Criticism, judgment, and the expectations of others lose their grip on you because you now understand that your worth is intrinsic, not conditioned by outside factors. This detachment also shows in the way you perceive drama and conflict. What once seemed like an insurmountable obstacle now appears as an opportunity to grow and learn. Difficult situations no longer trap you in cycles of anxiety or victimhood, since you have begun to view them from a higher perspective, with an awareness that recognizes the impermanence of everything. This process does not mean ignoring responsibilities or emotions, but rather facing them with renewed serenity, without allowing the ego to dictate your reactions. The need to control or manipulate fades away, and in its place arises a deep trust in the natural flow of life. By releasing the grip of the ego, you also experience an opening to compassion and forgiveness. You no longer cling to resentment or hold on to old wounds, because you realize that carrying such burdens only keeps you at a lower frequency. This new inner space allows you to heal and move forward with lightness and peace. In essence, detachment from the ego is not a renunciation, but a rebirth from a deeper truth, one that connects you with the essence of your being and with the multidimensional reality you now inhabit. This genuine detachment also reflects in how you relate to yourself and to others. You no longer seek to fill emotional voids with possessions, achievements, or external validation. Satisfaction now arises from within, from a space of stillness and acceptance you may have never known before. The constant struggle to prove something or maintain an image disappears, and in its place arises a sense of freedom that allows you to be genuine in every moment. There are no masks, no roles to play, you simply are. This inner evolution also brings with it a significant reduction in the fear of failure or rejection. By releasing the hold of the ego, you understand that those fears are mental constructions that do not define your essence. You dare to live with greater authenticity, free from the paralyzing weight of insecurity. Another important aspect is that this detachment does not mean indifference or disconnection, but a more conscious and harmonious commitment to life. You become a serene witness of your emotions without letting them drag you, and you learn to respond from a place of balance and wisdom. Finally, this process also influences your ability to let go of the past and to stop anticipating a future shaped by worries. Mindfulness becomes your ally, allowing you to inhabit the present with deeper joy and presence. This release from the ego is the key that opens the door to a new level of consciousness, where inner freedom and peace no longer depend on external circumstances, but on a genuine connection with yourself and with the reality you now experience in the fifth dimension. Fourth sign, a deep sense of justice and universal compassion. Something has shifted in the way you see the world. You are no longer satisfied with superficial answers or with accepting injustice as inevitable. You experience a growing sensitivity to the suffering of others, not only at a personal level, but on a much broader scale, as if you could feel the pain and joys of all humanity. This new perspective does not remain in thought, but translates into conscious actions and decisions that aim at the common good beyond personal or selfish interests. You can no longer ignore inequality, social injustice, or the destruction of the planet, because they affect you in a deep and authentic way. But this compassion is not a fleeting emotion or an overwhelming burden. It is a state of awareness where you understand that we are all part of the same energetic fabric, and that healing another is healing a part of yourself. In this dimension, justice is not based on external rewards or punishments, but on the recognition of interconnection and collective responsibility. A genuine desire arises to contribute with empathy, to elevate the collective vibration through active love and conscious action. This awakening to universal justice pushes you to question inherited structures and patterns and to seek innovative and harmonious ways of coexistence. You no longer settle for conformity. You want to be part of the change you long to see in the world. It is as if your soul had tuned into a frequency where peace and fairness are inevitable, and your life begins to reflect that deep commitment. This profound sense of justice and universal compassion goes beyond any ideology or political belief. It is a visceral experience born from the depths of the being. It is no longer just a thought or an idea, but an inner urgency guiding your daily choices. You notice that news which once left you indifferent now affects you emotionally, even if you are not directly involved. You can no longer remain distant from the suffering of others, but without falling into exhaustion or despair, because you know that balance is possible, that there is a way to act from consciousness that creates real transformation. This sign also means you start to see with greater clarity the connection between all aspects of life, the environment, animals, human relationships, economics, politics, and spirituality. You realize that no isolated struggle will make sense unless we acknowledge the fundamental unity that binds us all. With this awakening, action no longer arises from indignation or resentment, but from a deep love and wisdom that invites you to be an agent of peace. Thus, even if the outer world appears chaotic, within you a firm calm is established, because you know that true change begins inside. In this process, you also become more aware of your own shadows and limitations, and instead of judging yourself, you accept them with compassion. You understand that healing at an individual level is essential for contributing to collective healing. Moreover, this awakening connects you with others, vibrating at the same frequency, creating an invisible yet powerful network that sustains change and hope. It is no coincidence that you feel drawn to communities, movements, or causes that promote social justice, respect for nature, and peace. By living from this sign, your life becomes filled with meaning and purpose, and every action, no matter how small, turns into an act of conscious love. This new way of existing shows that you are no longer limited by materialist logic or individualist selfishness, but that you have entered a dimension where empathy and solidarity are fundamental pillars. The fascinating part of this transformation is that it cannot be forced or faked. It emerges organically and authentically, almost without you noticing. It is a change in how you perceive your responsibility towards yourself and the world around you. You no longer seek justice as punishment or revenge, but as a natural balance, flowing from love and awareness. This radically transforms your interpersonal relationships. You learn to set healthy boundaries, to listen without judging, to dialogue with respect even in conflict, and to forgive without forgetting. At the same time, you notice that injustices which once seemed normal or unavoidable now feel intolerable, not because you have become combative, but because your sensitivity to truth and harmony has sharpened so much that you cannot remain silent or passive. This awakening to universal justice also translates into a deeper integration of ethics into your everyday life, not only in great decisions or visible actions, but in small details. How do you choose to consume? How do you relate to the planet? What energies do you allow in your environment? You begin to understand that every thought, every word, and every gesture are vibrations that impact not only you, but the collective fabric of existence. That is why inner coherence becomes fundamental. You cannot preach one thing and act otherwise without feeling a deep unease. This coherence brings with it a sense of authenticity that radiates outward and attracts others seeking the same. In this way, the sense of justice awakening within you becomes an inspiring and transformative force that goes beyond superficial criticism or protest. In this dimension, you realize that real change begins with self-leadership and with the ability to create spaces of peace, understanding, and love within yourself and in your immediate environment. This sign is a clear indication that you have begun to live from the expanded awareness of the fifth dimension, where justice, compassion, and conscious action are the pillars sustaining a new reality. The fifth sign is communication that transcends words. When you step into this new frequency, the way you communicate begins to transform in ways you could have never imagined. It is no longer just about the words you choose, or the sentences you form, or the messages you send through writing. Instead, the essence of communication shifts toward the energetic and emotional level at which you transmit your thoughts. You may start to notice that superficial conversations lose their appeal. The small talk that once filled empty spaces no longer satisfies you. What you crave now are deeper, more meaningful exchanges, moments of authenticity where souls meet beyond appearances. What is even more astonishing is that you begin to experience modes of communication that surpass verbal language altogether. Perhaps you have realized that you can sense what someone is feeling or thinking without them ever putting it into words. You might even discover that you are capable of expressing your own truth without the need to explain every detail, as if the silent energy behind your presence already carries the message. This telepathic-like connection is not a magical gift reserved for a chosen few. It is the natural outcome of aligning yourself with the vibration of the fifth dimension, a state of being where the barriers that once separated minds and hearts begin to dissolve. Within this frequency, it becomes more common to perceive the emotions, intentions, and even the unspoken desires of others with striking clarity, even across distance. At the same time, you notice that expressing what you truly feel flows with more ease and sincerity, free from the fear of judgment. Authenticity becomes the foundation of every interaction you have, and because of this, you begin to attract relationships that are more genuine, more meaningful, and profoundly enriching. Yet this form of communication requires something deeper from you. It invites you to learn how to listen not only with your ears, but also with your heart. Soon, you realize that what remains unsaid often carries as much power as what is spoken, and you develop the ability to perceive these subtle messages with a natural grace. Living within this fifth-dimensional consciousness is like opening a conscious channel that connects you with other human beings and even with the universe itself. It is a dialogue without barriers, a communication that moves beyond sound and form, reaching directly into the essence of existence. And this form of communication is not confined to human interaction alone. It extends to your relationship with the environment, with nature, and even with your innermost self. You may find that certain places, sounds, symbols, or even seemingly random events begin to act as carriers of messages, profound, illuminating messages that arrive without words. It is as if a subtle frequency, invisible to most, has opened itself up to you. Suddenly, you are able to perceive vibrations that once went unnoticed, and in that awareness, a deeper layer of reality reveals itself. This opens the door to a completely new dimension of understanding and connection. In this realm, energy and intention hold far greater weight than language. And as you live more fully within it, you begin to cultivate a heightened sense of empathy. Your capacity to feel what others feel becomes sharper, more refined, and more precise. Sometimes this can be incredibly enriching because it allows you to experience intimacy and compassion in ways that transcend the ordinary. But it can also be challenging because now you are more aware than ever of the energies that surround you and the impact they have on your being. What is even more astonishing is that you begin to experience modes of communication that surpass verbal language altogether. Perhaps you have realized that you can sense what someone is feeling or thinking without them ever putting it into words. You might even discover that you are capable of expressing your own truth without the need to explain every detail, as if the silent energy behind your presence already carries the message. This telepathic-like connection is not a magical gift reserved for a chosen few. It is the natural outcome of aligning yourself with the vibration of the fifth dimension, a state of being where the barriers that once separated minds and hearts begin to dissolve. Within this frequency, it becomes more common to perceive the emotions, intentions, and even the unspoken desires of others with striking clarity, even across distance. At the same time, you notice that expressing what you truly feel flows with more ease and sincerity, free from the fear of judgment. Authenticity becomes the foundation of every interaction you have, and because of this, you begin to attract relationships that are more genuine, more meaningful, and profoundly enriching. Yet this form of communication requires something deeper from you. It invites you to learn how to listen not only with your ears, but also with your heart. Soon, you realize that what remains unsaid often carries as much power as what is spoken, and you develop the ability to perceive these subtle messages with a natural grace. Living within this fifth-dimensional consciousness is like opening a conscious channel that connects you with other human beings and even with the universe itself. It is a dialogue without barriers, a communication that moves beyond sound and form, reaching directly into the essence of existence. And this form of communication is not confined to human interaction alone. It extends to your relationship with the environment, with nature, and even with your innermost self. You may find that certain places, sounds, symbols, or even seemingly random events begin to act as carriers of messages, profound, illuminating messages that arrive without words. It is as if a subtle frequency, invisible to most, has opened itself up to you. Suddenly, you are able to perceive vibrations that once went unnoticed, and in that awareness, a deeper layer of reality reveals itself. This opens the door to a completely new dimension of understanding and connection. In this realm, energy and intention hold far greater weight than language. And as you live more fully within it, you begin to cultivate a heightened sense of empathy. Your capacity to feel what others feel becomes sharper, more refined, and more precise. Sometimes this can be incredibly enriching because it allows you to experience intimacy and compassion in ways that transcend the ordinary. But it can also be challenging because now you are more aware than ever of the energies that surround you and the impact they have on your being.